Woo!
Woohoo!
Is shaking, y'all. Episode, oh my gosh, I don't even know what episode we are at right now. We're above 50 episodes. Kristen, do you know why we're above 50 episodes?
No, tell me.
Because you cannot cancel me. I produce the show. I'm in charge of the show. My job. You can't fire me when it's my job.
I love it.
We have Kristen Zavo here today on the Golden Mic. Kristen Zavo wrote an internationally best-selling book, Job Joy. Cannot wait to talk about that. Kristen Zavo, career coach and strategist. Kristen Zavo, gonna talk to us today about, don't laugh, sharing 3 secrets to finding joy at work. And here's the kicker, no matter what it is that you're doing.
Exactly.
One more Kristen Zavo. Kristen Zavo, most badass hair to ever show up on the Golden Mic. Check that out. Check out that purple and pink. Love it, love it, love it. Kristen, we're going to talk about everything in terms of job joy, how we can find that kind of fulfillment, the little hacks that we can do. But first of all, for those of you who haven't met me, my name is Marc, the founder of Make Money Coaching. But more important than that, I am a positive psychology coach. That just means 2 things. Number 1, on a daily basis, are you feeling happy? Are you feeling grateful? Do you get to engage in those things every single day? Number 2, are you living a life where you could just sit down right now and say, I'm totally fulfilled with what it is that I'm doing? You put 1 and 2 together, you do not need a positive psychology coach. Just go out there, live your life, and have a good one. Have a good one. Now, here's the thing. Kristen Zavo, are you living your life in full fulfillment and living each day in happiness?
Absolutely. It's not always perfect, but
true.
Absolutely. Yes.
That's fantastic. That is fantastic. So for those of you who are watching live, those of you who are watching the replay, thank you, Mike Mielo. We are at show 52. So for those of you watching the 50-second show live or the replay, if you're feeling good and you're living in full fulfillment, let me see your hands come up like this, Kristen. Can you make us some hearts? Can you show 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 us some hearts? If you're feeling good and you're living in full fulfillment, is that how they meet? That is wacky. Like, this is how they make the heart beat in Cincinnati? That's so strange.
I should have cut out like perfect hearts. I don't have any hearts here.
You have all like your knuckles all put together, and you're like,
how's that? How's that?
That is perfect. Yeah. That is perfect. That is the perfect.
I should have practiced. You know?
Well, here's the other thing, y'all. We oftentimes think that positive psychology is about this type of happiness where we're happy 24/7, where it's always shits and giggles and rainbows and unicorns crapping Skittles all over us and double rainbows and Taco Tuesday every single day. Well, the thing about that is that we wake up and it could be a Wednesday for you and you're like, you know, Cordone, I really don't want to hear you today. You are really getting on my nerves, homie. You might be having one of those days where you're just not happy, you know. You were happy yesterday and things have changed and you're not that happy today. Or you're going through a stage where I used to be completely fulfilled in relationships, work, whatever domain that you want to throw out there. I used to be completely fulfilled, but all of a sudden I feel like I'm getting a calling for something else. And so I used to be fulfilled, but like, I don't know where my next move is going to be anymore. That is okay too, to feel that those ups and downs and all arounds. That's positive psychology, people, right? So your heart is beating just like the rest of us. Give us a thumbs up. Let us know that you're resilient and you're pushing through it. Okay, she's got the thumbs up down. Like, I've got the heart down. The most knuckly, like, heart I've ever seen.
Well, now we need to do the tier one.
now make it tier. So here's the one that in times like these can often be the most overlooked one and the one of most importance. And that is, no matter where you are, whether you're up, whether you're down, whether you're confused on where you're at, whether you see people who are up, down, and confused, if you are optimistic about tomorrow, there's another button down there called the wow face. And Kristen and I are going to give it. Give me a big old wow face, Kristen. She's got like jazz hands on her wow face. Jazz hands.
So much better, right?
So before we start talking about your own tips, let's say hi to some people who are tuning in. We got Jorge coming in from Puerto Rico, just saying peace. He's here every single day. You know why he's here every single day? He's the greatest of all time. I think he meant to say peace and love, but he said pecar and love, heart sign. Yes, I read the I read them how you spell them. Hello, Diamond. It's nice to meet you, Diamantine. Mike Mielo, 52 French kisses your way, baby. Wish you all a great show. Thank you for the 52 French kisses. I'll take all 52. None for Kristen. I take all the French kisses around here. That was great. you know what? Someone just throwing a dang tear face.
Yeah, because I need some love too.
52 French kisses. That's fun, and thank you for participating in that beginning piece. You have done quite a bit getting this book off the ground, now becoming a career and strategic coach. Before we get into all of that, I'm curious to know, Kristen, what's your story?
Well, I'm not sure we have time for my whole story, but I'll tell you a snippet. I, over the course of my career, and, people tell me I look young, but I have been in the business world for 18 years. But over the course of my career, I found success fairly easily. I was in school, I was a straight A student. I always did my work. I was, a good student. I knew what worked in school, worked in the corporate world. And, for the majority of my career, I was in consulting. And I, by my mid-20s, I was making six figures. I was in New York City in a beautiful high-rise apartment. I could tell people I was talking to CEOs and presenting to boards. It was all very impressive. My parents could talk about what I do and impress their friends. If anyone looked me up on LinkedIn, it would be a big deal. And, I had all the outside measures of success. But when it came down to it, I was not happy. I was not fulfilled. Everything that I thought I would feel when I got to this point was not there. Everything that I thought I would be doing and, actually my work mattering wasn't happening. And so there was a very big disconnect between what I thought success was and what it felt like when I got there. And I changed careers a few times. I started in banking, I was in consulting, then I was in corporate strategy. And each time along the way, I learned different things about myself. I took the long time to finally do what I love, the very long route. And the reason I wrote the book is because I don't want other people to have to do that. I want to shortcut that for them as much as I can and share what's worked for me and what's worked for my clients so that you can get to that happy place. You can get to your job joy a lot quicker than me.
That's so money. Let me ask you this. Let's rewind a little bit, and let's look at younger or even baby Kristen. Right? When you were younger and you thought about jobs, what was it that you thought you would be doing?
Well, the first thing I thought is success would be money and power. So I was going
Even
to,
even as a young
oh,
child.
yes.
Oh, I hate when
Um,
we fight. Oh, oh yes.
oh, but I did. And I imagined myself in the corner office. And by the way, no one has offices anymore. But in those days, the pinnacle of my career would be corner office, lots of windows. Um, I wanted to be a lawyer. And so everybody would be watching what I had to say. Power and money. That was what I thought.
Yeah.
And that's just a lie we're sold.
Yeah. Yeah. Where were you picking up that lie from? Was it family, or was it things you saw on TV?
I think, of course, society and
Yeah.
TV. And um, my mother raised me to be a strong woman. She wanted to make sure that I was going to be fine on my own. I wasn't going to need anyone. I was going to be able to survive and thrive in this big, bad, scary world. And the way to do that is to be strong, to be successful, to make more than enough money. And to her, that would give me the most freedom and the most safety and the most security.
Mm,
And
mm.
so I think, because of her, I'm so strong and independent, and I'm so grateful for that. But the way, at least, that I interpreted it, because wherever we say we learn things from, right? It's how we took it. It's not
Yep.
necessarily the message they were giving us, but the way that I, perceived and took in that message was that this was what I had to do in my career. And
Gotcha.
so I ran with that.
Okay, gotcha. So we're a couple years into your career, sort of as a consultant, you're making the six figures. Around what point was it that you were like, something's missing?
There were many points. And at first, I blamed everything around me. It's just
Hmm.
this project, because in consulting, you can always look forward to another project. So it's just this project. It's just this boss. It's just this task. You know what it is? It's like, I'm tired of traveling to Detroit. That must be what it is. And
Yeah.
then, I think I like consulting, but it's this actual firm. Maybe I need to move. Maybe I just need to get promoted. Once I get promoted, then I had a million reasons. But so I would use those reasons whenever I would get upset to just ignore.
Yeah.
And it really hit me when I was at the height of consulting and I was in New York and I was working 6 days. I thought I was setting boundaries by giving myself Sunday off. But I was working 6 days,
Okay, Jesus.
right? Like, well, I have a church story for you, speaking of that. But, I was easily, when people say they're working 12-hour days, and you've seen studies on this, most of the time they're really not. They're bullshitting most of the time.
Yep.
Maybe that blah, blah, blah. But I really was. Because I was, writing down my time to a tenth of an hour. That's a fun thing you get to do in consulting. I was easily working 12-hour days and I was burnt out. And I said I would mention church. I would go to church. There was this adorable little chapel in the middle of Times Square in New York City. And I would go to mass on Sundays, and that would be, my 1 hour where I didn't have to work. I didn't have to think, and I could just be. And it was just so calming there for me. And I remember being in mass and the tears just started coming. And not, cute little tears, but the ugly, snot, red-faced, can't control yourself type thing. And I didn't know what was going on. I was not a crier. I had learned all these years in a male dominated industry, you don't cry, you don't show emotion. So this was very foreign to me. And, that was one of my wake up calls where, I think it was just, I was so go, go, go. I never stopped and could feel anything. And I said in that moment, if this is success, I don't want it.
Yeah.
And that was, one of the moments. There were a few moments because I really needed to be kicked in the butt with the message multiple times. But that was one of the moments where I knew something had to change. I had no idea what I was going to do, but I couldn't keep doing this.
Okay, so here you are, ugly crying, middle of ugly, really ugly crying, middle of Times Square. you're beginning to go into that contemplation stage where it's like, I'm going to change some stuff up, right?
Mhm.
Um, Next day, what did that look like? Did you have box packed up? Did you hire a coach? Like, what did it look like now?
Well, I prayed. So that's one thing. So thank you, Mary. That's who I prayed to.
Thank you,
um,
Mary.
I did honestly pray, and I did honestly
Yeah.
pray to Mary. But I started thinking about what it was I wanted to do. I did end up hiring a coach, and through that, I got the courage to quit consulting. That happened in the summer, and I quit in September because October
Yeah.
1 was my like freedom day.
Yep.
But there were other things when that happened, in the summer. I didn't know I was going to quit. And I was very afraid to quit. And I had been talking about leaving for, at least a couple of years before that. And I never could muster up the courage.
Yeah.
But there were a couple of things that happened that I couldn't do. My health was suffering. I was always a healthy kid, never in the hospital, never had issues. And all of a sudden I was getting these debilitating migraines, like a migraine. And if you haven't had a migraine, it's not just a bad headache. It's so bad. Like I couldn't move my head from side to side.
Mm-hmm.
I remember being in bed for 2 weeks where I couldn't do anything. I, was on 8 different medications at the same time, pills, sprays, and after getting an MRI, my neurologist, I had a neurologist that did just migraines, and she was talking about injecting Botox into my scalp. And I'm like, no, this is serious. I can't do this. I can't live like this.
Yeah.
And I ended up going to see an acupuncturist, and that worked. But I knew that I couldn't be this way. The lifestyle in consulting was not working for me, or, not helping my health. My neurologist, she sat me down in her office and she said, I can give you all the medicines. We can try everything, but it's your lifestyle. She said, you need 8 hours of sleep.
Yeah.
You need healthy, chemical-free food, and you need 10 minutes of sunshine a day for the vitamin D. And when she said that, I laughed at her. Are you crazy? 8 hours? I'm not allowed to do that in consulting. And wait, 10 minutes of being outside? If I leave my desk, everyone's going to wonder where I am, and then I'm going to get in trouble. And chemical-free food? No, we're traveling. We're eating at, Panera at lunch and going out at night. So all of this was laughable. And, of course, it's funny looking back. But at the time, I thought she was crazy. There's no way in hell I can do those 3 simple things. And I believe that in my core.
Oh, absolutely. And I think number one is I realize that you don't just fight with me; you fight with everyone. Stop yelling at your doctor. But I think number two is that there's a part of the brain that that wants to keep us small, right? It wants to keep our habits going because we haven't died yet from those
Yes,
habits.
yes.
And even though we're on a path that we know is going to kill us, we haven't yet died. And it's the same part of the brain that keeps us, like what people call playing small, right? And so ostensibly you had such a great life, but in the core, you were settling for a life for much less than the person that you always dreamed of being when you were younger.
Yep.
And even when it was young baby Kristen, sort of powerhouse person, big boss bee, pushing people around. There also seems to be an implicit like, I'm gonna have the relationship, I'm gonna have the health, I'm gonna have all. It's all gonna be a part of this. It's not gonna be sacrificed for it.
Oh yeah, I thought that was the easy part. When you're a kid, you think by this age I'll be married, I'll have this many kids, I'll be living in a nice house. It's like you just think that happens. You think you've got to work for your career. But for me, the career was the easy part. And you bring up a really good point. Because of the career, which I made a conscious decision, I'm going to work through my 20s, and I consciously decided to, not pay attention to the rest of my life. And you're right. I had the great career, but I didn't get to hang out with my friends. I certainly didn't date. I had very few relationships through my 20s because I was so focused on my career. That was my top priority. And I would have no problem telling you that.
Yeah, yeah. So here we are now. You're arguing with everybody, crying in the middle of Times Square. You're just a nutcase.
Yes.
Um, you're not
Thank
a
you.
you're
Thank you for putting it all in that one point.
you're
You're in that
praying
case.
you're praying to Mary, but suddenly you have a coach. You've got a Freedom Day. And for those folks who aren't in the coaching industry or haven't heard of Freedom Day, what is a Freedom Day?
Well, I'm not sure what your definition, but my
Mhm.
Freedom Day was, I broke the chains of consulting. Those were
Yep,
pretty tough golden handcuffs, and this was my day. I was free.
yep,
That was huge, and it
yep.
felt really good. And I celebrated it. Really, I had a freedom week. But
Yeah, congratulations on that. Congratulations on
yeah.
that. So in going from the point where you realized I want to move towards that Freedom Day. What was that looking like? Was it easy peasy, point A to point B? Because I gotta admit, like you are one of the more intense guests that I've had,
Oh,
and
really?
but you're kind of a get shit done type of person in my
Oh,
mind.
yeah.
Like point A, point B, get it done,
Yep.
right? Was it like that from where you were in your coach, not your coaching journey, your job journey, to where it is that you were in your Freedom Day, to getting to your Freedom Day?
No, absolutely not. I had struggled with what to do for years, and I knew I needed to leave, but I wasn't sure what. And even when I thought about it, there were just so many reasons I shouldn't. It was a bad economy. I should be grateful. This is a thing, when you're successful and you're a little bit mindful and you hear all this gratitude stuff, and you think you should be happy, and you say, what is wrong with me for not being happy?
Yep.
So there was that issue. Judgment. What if I failed? I couldn't look for a job while I was in consulting, so I had to quit in order to look for a job because it was just too many hours and we were traveling and I couldn't network, blah blah blah. And honestly, the people most important to me told me it would be a big mistake, a huge mistake. So much so that when I quit, my mother told me, we're not going to tell your father about this because it will give him a heart attack.
Okay.
And I don't know if she's told him yet. I quit my consulting in 2013. I don't know if he even knows yet. This is like, you always have to listen to your mom. She told me not to tell him. And I complied with that. But like, talk about a message of this is the wrong idea. But I knew in my heart, I couldn't live like this, being so unhappy, sporadically crying, having headaches that were debilitating. There were so many things that were coming up. And here's the other thing. I think I was 30-ish. Either way, I was young. And I thought that it was too late. I had 10 plus years in a career. My MBA was in finance. There's no way someone will give me a job in an industry, I haven't worked in, doing something I haven't done, unless I have to start from the very beginning. And and people told me that too. Well-meaning people told me that. And that was scary.
Yeah.
And, then I had, you build up this lifestyle. That's what the golden handcuffs are. Right? You're stuck with a company because they're giving you the money. They're probably holding out on money. They would save part of our bonus to give us the next year. So if we left, we would be giving that up. And I had built up this lifestyle, part of which was to make me feel better about being miserable at work. Right? So if I buy nice clothes, if I have the red bottom shoes, if I go to the fancy restaurants and have a really nice apartment, then I'll feel better. And you do in the short term. But then you build up this lifestyle that now you can't afford without the job that you hate, which is the reason that you built the whole lifestyle in the first place.
Oh my God. It's almost like you built a scaffolding up to support the crappiness that job that gave you. And then you leave the job and the scaffolding is still up and you've got to maintain it.
Yeah.
That's absolutely horrible. I just to throw this out, like one of the biggest reasons I moved to positive psychology was someone went and he got a 6-figure job in New York, and I was talking to him. He was one of my former students, and he said, Cordone, I got every grade, I got every job, I got every school, I got everything. And I'm like, talk to me, Goose. And he goes, so I'm blowing all my money on cocaine and heroin every night. Right. Sorry, not cocaine and heroin. Cocaine and prostitutes every night. Not to make it any better or worse, but like, sort of the idea of with cocaine, like the idea of just like numbing the pain or numbing whatever, and then with prostitution, I call it what you want, but when we talked a little bit more, he was lonely. He just wanted someone around him. You know what I mean?
That's
so
heartbreaking.
Like, it is heartbreaking. And so when we talk about having job joy, I mean, we're talking about going to places, having a job in which we aren't building those scaffolds up that buttress the need to go out and be like, I'm going to go smoke one this weekend because, hate my job or can't wait till 5 o'clock in the afternoon because that's when my job is over. Just wanted to throw these things out before we go into job joy. Jorge loves your mentality.
Thanks, Jorge. Yes.
I'm going to say it first. I loved her first. But Rebecca wants to know or wants to let you know, I love this woman.
Thanks, Rebecca.
Absolutely love this woman. And Bex, she might have you on the hair today. We'll see. The hair's pretty rocking right now. So let's start going into job joy because it sounds like you've got so much energy there, both in terms of energy that is creative, but energy that was for many years frustrating for you. And you were trying to turn that frustrating energy into creative energy, into happiness. And I'm guessing that's what this is looking like when it comes to becoming happier at work, becoming more fulfilled, no matter what industry you're in.
Yep, it's true. And I don't think I answered your question of when I finally quit. But I have to tell you, I was on a project in Kentucky and we got delayed, blah, blah, blah. Anyway, long story short, I ended up being left alone. And I had to stay overnight in Kentucky, which as a New Yorker, that was, sorry if there's any people from Kentucky, but that was like godforsaken land. And they left me. My team left me alone overnight in Kentucky. And, then I didn't have my stuff because in consulting, you leave your shower stuff at the hotel that you come back to every single week. So I didn't have a change of clothes. I felt gross. Next morning I get home and, I just want to jump in the shower. You know that feeling when you just feel so gross? And my boss is calling me, asking me if I'm going to be on the call. And that was the first time where I stood up to him.
Of course it would get cut off right now. Kristen, we're going to keep it open for you because you just stood up to him. If y'all are feeling this right now, did it pause for those of you who are watching? We are going to let her log back on right now because she knows exactly what to do. But for those of you who are watching, Rebecca, did it pause? Here she is. See, there are no mistakes in this game, people. I just knew she'd be back.
Well, you know what? I wanted to leave everyone on a cliffhanger.
I know. It was like...
Sorry, guys. So anyway, I knew I was going to leave and I wasn't sure which day. So I literally printed out and signed my resignation letter and I had a copy for each day. So anytime my boss said something, I was ready to go, you know what? Never mind. I quit.
Yeah. Get out of
Okay.
jail free.
Yes. Okay. So finding joy at work. Sorry to get us off track.
No. Be cool.
Be
Be
cool.
cool. Be cool. Pump the heart. We're good. We got time. We got time. Yeah, you really did come to this place of like, um, job joy and writing about it. And so talk about it a little bit.
About finding joy at work, or just about writing job joy?
I think, well, to me, they sound the same. Because
Yep.
as you found a career, a calling, even that makes sense, where all your domains are being and fulfillment is being met.
Yep.
That gave you the ability to write about it, right?
Yeah.
So I'm curious. What are some of the secrets to finding joy at work, no matter what you do?
So there's lots of secrets, but I do have 3 at the ready for you.
Oh,
So
3 at the ready.
at the ready.
At the ready.
I wrote a book on it, so I could talk about it for hours. But the first thing, which might seem to be unrelated, but the first way to find joy at work is to find joy outside of work. So it's all connected, right? If you're miserable at work, you're going to come home, you're going to be short with your kids, you're going to make a nasty comment, to your partner. Because you feel so miserable, you'd rather than go to the gym after work, you're going to come and sit on the couch and Netflix, and your life turns into sleep, work, Netflix, sleep, and it's horrible. So my point in telling you all that is that it's all connected. Yeah. So a lot of times, those of us who are miserable at work, those of us who are high achievers, want to be productive, want to be successful, we think that everything has to be all about work. And so we go after that success, as we talked about earlier, at the expense of everything else. So my number 1 tip, get a life. Seriously, get a life. And at first, it can be tough. So I recommend planning something after work that you can't get out of. So number 1, you have to leave work on time. And number 2, you have something to look forward to. And, it adds to your life. You're meeting new people. You're doing something fun. And just when you have fun outside of life, you bring that happiness and that excitement wherever you go.
So right? True. So true. I think this is called in positive psychology, the ripple effect. So if you're in one area and you can't get out of it, what happens is that if you, God, I hear myself talking. So what happens is that if you do something that you love, there is a ripple effect to it, and it comes back to work. I think what I'm thinking about is, so I was done with work, being the happiness guy at work, and so I joined the roller derby team. And if I was late to practice, you had to do sprints, right? But there were also other it was men and women, but the league I played for was all guys. So most of them had kids or were single dads. So during breaks, we would talk about our kids and stuff like that. And then when I came back to work, I'd be like, oh, this is how you would handle it in derby. Because the derby mind is all about being able to work on the fly. And I love that idea of getting a life. Yeah.
Yeah. That is so you too. Well, how badass are you? Roller derby?
Pretty damn. You're unbelievable.
But it is. Wow.
But I won't eat Skyline chili.
Yes, I will jump from planes. I will climb Machu Picchu, but I am afraid of the Skyline chili. That's a Cincinnati thing for anyone listening. They're very big in their chili, and they put it on spaghetti. Who does that? And I was telling Marc before we went live that I was, even though that's the thing in Cincinnati, that's where I live, that I'm afraid to try it. I'm afraid you go to other countries and they tell you don't drink the water because your stomach isn't ready for it. I'm afraid my stomach isn't ready for the Cincinnati chili. So, if you're a chili fan, tell us, and maybe it'll push me to go give it a try.
Yes. And then there will be a picture of her with yet another tear or crying in the middle of Skyline chili, yelling at a doctor in Skyline. It's just, she's just going to go off. So number 1, get a freaking life.
Get a life.
What's number 2?
Number 2 is one of my favorites. And if you can practice this at work, it also will serve you in the rest of your life. And that's about setting boundaries. Like, one of the biggest things when I work with clients is I make them leave work at a particular time. I then, once they handle that, which that's tough, once we've gotten over that, you take lunch. Even if it's just 20 minutes, step away from your desk, get that sunshine, mentally disconnect. Because you know what? If you're eating and typing, you're not really doing either well. Just mentally take a break. You're going to come back so refreshed. Also setting boundaries around the time that we're available. Depending on the culture of where you work, they will take you for all you have. I would, even in my last job, which was corporate, and, Cincinnati is pretty laid back. My boss, he came from consulting, and he would easily call me at 10, 10:30, 11 o'clock at night. And if I happen to be up, that's fine. And if I'm, okay to answer it, but I had to set boundaries that if I'm in the middle of, for example, cooking dinner, and I have, 2 pots going, and that is not the time to pick up the phone because I'm afraid my boss is going to be mad at me if I don't answer. These are very basic boundaries. And if you decide what they are, like, for example, most days I leave by 6 or 6:30, whatever fits, then don't, stay late to prove anything. And that seems so simple, but I've seen it make such a big difference for me and, for my clients. They've told me, and then they'll text me and they'll go, "You'd be so proud of me. I, sat outside for lunch." Or even I went outside to the car and I read my book while I ate, because they know that if they stay at work, they'll just be interrupted.
They'll get pulled into something.
Yeah,
it's something that I was told very, very quickly when I took my first job, my first big time job, was that I said, I am never leaving here because I love insert institution name. And my mentor took me aside and said, never love the institution, because the institution is designed to take and replace. So it will ask everything from you and then replace you. That's just the way the organizational behavior of it works.
Yep.
Be true to the people who give a crap about you, inside and outside of the organization. I think you also make a great point about boundaries from the standpoint of you may be working, for someone, or you might be an entrepreneur. And entrepreneurs too, I think the idea of setting boundaries, it's like, oh, I've got my freedom day. I can wake up whenever I want. I can do this. Technically speaking, you write, this is mine, right? You write your work hours, and I don't deviate from those work hours. For those of you who look at my show is only between 11 and 1, Tuesdays, Wednesdays, and Thursdays. And if my guest can't make it on that time, there's no show that day. And so for me, and other entrepreneurs, a lot of people think that it's just loosey-goosey, you're kind of flying around, doing things by the seat of your pants. But setting boundaries is even more important, because you have to create the boundaries. I want to go and watch World Cup later on. I want to do this. I want to do that, right? But no, I've got to be able to put down the 44 hours that I said I was going to work this week. And so in many ways, boundaries are important. Yeah.
Yeah, it's huge. And it reminds me what you're saying is, are you being a good boss to yourself? And a good boss, they will let you leave when it's time to leave for the boundaries you said. And flexibility is important, because sometimes you were going to work, maybe you were going to work 9 to 6, something came up, and you can be flexible. You can be a good boss with yourself, but at the same time, you hold your employees accountable to what they said they were going to do.
Yep, absolutely. Absolutely. Awesome. So I think we got a third one here. What? Can she do a third one?
A third one, yes.
Can she give us a third point without yelling at me or crying to Mother Mary? Or
I'm going to do my best, but no promises.
Okay, what do we got going on?
It would be really good if I had a Mary statue over here that I could bring.
So awesome.
Unfortunately,
so awesome.
Yes.
It's so awesome.
Okay, so number 3 is about being proactive versus reactive. And I could go on about this forever, but specifically for this, I want to talk about being proactive with your schedule. So I've read this before, and in Craig Ballantyne's book, and I can't think, it's called The Perfect Day, or The Perfect Day Formula is what it's called. And he talks about your magic time. And we all have a magic time, the time when we are most productive, when, you know, we're most sharp, when we're most creative, when we can get into it and get so much more done in a certain, say, 2 to 4 hours than we could at any other time of the day. So, you know, when you're burnt out and you're tired, you know, you could be something that should take you an hour might take you 4 because you're making mistakes. You're not thinking, you get distracted. That's not your magic time. So when you figure out what your time is, for me, it's the morning, you take that and you protect it. So if you are in corporate, what that means is I would go and I would block off my mornings. So 8 to 12, I would block off. And would sometimes a meeting show up there that I had to go to? Absolutely. And I could be flexible with that. But I was being proactive by blocking off those hours so that when people would schedule meetings, they would do it in the afternoon. And that was better for me because that was the time, you know, I would feel good. I got something done. I was feeling more social and I didn't need to be on point, right? Because a meeting is a little bit different. And so figuring out your magic time and proactively, you know, scheduling this out in your Outlook. And we can do the same as entrepreneurs too, right? You block out what's the most important time for you. And another way that helps is, you know, if you're setting boundaries about the hours you're going to be on at work, if now you have a life outside of work, this means you need to be more productive and present so that you work while you're at work and you don't work while you're not at work. And so being proactive with your time helps you do this. And so if you say, you know, even if you just say from 8 to 10, this is my focus time, that would be what I would call it. And my team knew it. This is focus time. Don't bother Kristen. If, you know, people would stop by, I would go down to the cafeteria, go to a conference room so that I could have my focus time. And that's no emails, whatever I'm working on, I work on. So that would be proactive with your time, not reactive.
That is freaking awesome. It's almost like mapping out. I'm taking this out because I hear myself speaking. It's almost like mapping out when you're performing at full capacity, and then logging that in, and then honoring that. Mm-hmm. And as you honor that, coming from the standpoint of, you know, as I honor it at work, I'm performing the best that I can, but also at the same time, by doing that at work, it sets such a good model for you to be able to do things like be completely 100% with your family, or with your partner, or with, you know, or with your derby team, right? Oh, guys, can't do this other lap. Thinking about work, right? Like, right? You can be 100% and give 100%. I think one of the biggest things in life is just showing the fuck up in other people's lives. And I love the idea of being proactive about that versus reactive about it. Let me open my schedule and see what everybody booked me for today, versus saying, this is Kirsten's time, this is Kristen's time, it's Cordone's time, and that is not to be messed with. Love it.
Yep. It's been huge for me.
Okay, well, I'm glad that we stopped fighting.
Oh, that's great. We can end on something we agree on.
We can end on something that well, I can agree on this. Thank you for coming on the show.
Thank you for having me.
Oh my gosh, we are going to keep in touch.
Absolutely.
And I do go through Cincinnati quite a bit. So what do you say we go and take the Skyline Chili Challenge?
And we're going to have to catch it all live.
We're going to catch it all live. And, like, we have to stream it live. So when we start getting the belly aches, like,
oh. Well, I have to. I'm setting a boundary. We're not streaming from the bathroom.
Boundaries. Okay. So maybe the next time you'll see us, we'll be live together in somewhere in Ohio. If not, I hope that you're going to come back on the show. I had a blast with you. We've been rolling in some circles, and it's been too long. We needed to meet sooner, and you're everything that I thought you would be. You're awesome.
So are you.
Yeah, so with Kristen, I want you to like Kristen. I want you to love Kristen. I want you to want some more of Kristen, and I want you to forward this out. I want you to think about all the things the little nuggets that she threw out there, from being open to sharing parts of her life, to talking about how she pivoted on that, and despite fear, despite what other people thought, despite people saying, "Don't tell your dad that you quit." Despite that, she's still moving forward and getting some things done. Kristen, it looks like you've got this book out, and it looks like we've got access to it by the way that you've emailed me right now.
Yes,
is that true?
You do. So now it is on Amazon, but I would love to gift anyone a free copy that is interested. You just have to email me at kristen@jobjoybook.com, or friend me here. Friend me anyway, even if you don't want the book. Friend me on Facebook, and you can send me a message and I'll get it to you.
Yeah, there you go. So that's the email address.
Yep.
Get the book, like it, love it. Maybe what we'll do is one of these months we'll do like a Job Joy month, and we'll deconstruct each chapter.
Oh, I would love that. Yeah. Yes, okay, I'm down. Let's do it.
Okay, we'll do something like that. I want to see some black streaks with some white hair though when we do it.
What? Why?
I want you going totally goth on me.
That's not me though. This is joy, not goth. Joy, happiness.
Yelling at me. I hate yelling.
I'm sorry. I'm excited.
I hate to love you, and I love to hate you. So here's the last thing, y'all. Here's the last thing of the Golden Mic. Kristen, I don't know if you've ever seen it, but it's a visioning activity that we're going to do, right?
Okay.
So I want you to imagine that a golden mic is coming down over there in Cincinnati, and it's coming down from your ceiling, and it's stopping right in front of you. And for 2 minutes, that golden mic allows you to translate into any language all across the world. So the entire world is listening, and they're listening to your message when I flip the golden mic. So Kristen Zavo, you are on the Golden Mic Live.
Okay. I'm going to keep this short. Number 1, you are enough exactly as you are. Number 2, it's never too late. No matter what anyone tells you, no matter your education, no matter your age, no matter your experience. It is not too late until you are in the ground. And number 3, you got this.
Hand out. Now drop that golden mic like it's hot. Kristen Zavo, author of Job Joy, career expert. She killed it. We're getting some hearts right now. I'm your boy, Marc Cordone. We got another golden mic coming up for you soon. Don't forget to pick up her book. One final question, and that it's this. For those of you who are feeling good and living life to its fullest, what is your responsibility to the greater good? We're heading out. We will see you soon. This has been episode 52. Peace out.
Peace out. Bye, guys.
Peace out.